A burst of air at over 100 miles an hour. 100,000 germs fly into the sky, and your heart literally stops beating. This, Brainiacs, is what happens when you sneeze. It may sound crazy, but sneezing is no joke, and this just scratches the surface. Today we tackle what causes you to sneeze, what changes occur in your body, and what else is going on during this expulsion of air and snot from our noses. Human beings sneeze quite a lot. And they come in all shapes and sizes. Maybe you've noticed you're someone with a huge sneeze that's nice and loud, and wham bam, it's over. Or maybe you're more the 7 to 8 tiny sneezes in a row type. Small, quiet, not harming anyone, but they just never seem to end. Scientists are not exactly sure why there's a difference in sneezes from person to person, but the leading theory says that multiple sneezes may be a sign that you have ongoing nasal stimulation, most likely brought on by allergies. We can tell you this though, if you think your 8 sneezes in a row are a lot, that's nothing compared to the world record held by Donna Griffiths in Worcestershire, England. Donna sneezed for 978 days straight, at a rate of about 1 sneeze a minute. Looks like you've got a long way to go if you want to play with the big boys. But maybe the multiple sneeze thing isn't for you. Maybe you're someone who sneezes after looking at the sun, or even just a bright light for that matter. You're not alone. This is known as a photic sneeze, and scientific surveys have clocked about 10 to 35% of the population experiences this, and studies of this phenomenon still continue to this day. Photic sneezing is linked to our genes, and the trait is known as autosomal dominant, which means only one copy of this gene must be present for it to occur in the next generation. Basically, if your parents sneeze at bright lights, it's very likely that you will sneeze at bright lights too. At one point, the leading theory behind photic sneezing says that bright lights made our eyes water, and thus this flood of liquid in our sinus area caused us to sneeze. But as time and tests went on, we've discovered there's just not enough time from the tearing up to the sneeze for this to be the case. Now, the latest theory suggests that the electrical impulse that triggers a sneeze is sensed by the trigeminal nerve in our brains, which is right next to the optic nerve. Basically, the wires here are so close that they, well, sort of get crossed. And when the optic nerve tells our brains to constrict our pupils, a signal also hits the trigeminal nerve and, well, we sneeze. But what about this rumor that our heart stops when we sneeze? What's going on here? Where'd this legend come from? Well, when we sneeze, which is scientifically known as sternutation, quite a bit is going on inside of our bodies. Sneezing is a whole ordeal, and much of it relies on reflex, and once it starts, our bodies take over and we can't stop. And good thing too, it's our body's way to expunge dirt, pollen, germs, and mucus from our noses. It's our first line of defense against potential intruders to our system. As our bodies sense the tiny hairs on our nose becoming irritated, an electrical signal is sent to our brain that tells our muscles to contract. Our diaphragm gets ready to push a huge amount of air out of our nose and mouth, our eyelids are told to close, and our tongues go under the top of our mouths. All this happens in a matter of seconds, and then, achoo! Air, mucus, and water are forced out of us at 100 miles per hour. And with each sneeze, about 100,000 germs are thrown into the air. And while this is a great way for our bodies to get all the gunk out of there, this is also a natural reset mechanism for our sinuses. The sensitive cells that line our nasal environment called cilia get a sort of reboot. Not bad, body. You've killed 2 birds with 1 sneeze. Okay, but what about this heart-stopping thing? Is it real or is it just an urban legend? Well, the answer is sort of yes, sort of no. When we sneeze, a huge change in the pressure of our bodies takes place, mainly in our torso. This causes the blood flow to our hearts to slow down, and guess what? Our hearts compensate for this by quickly changing their regular beat. Now, we want to be clear, the electrical activity in your heart does not stop. So while we absolutely feel that our hearts have stopped, and our current rhythm of beating certainly changes, no actual stopping of the heart takes place. Looks like there's no reason to say God bless you after all. Hey, speaking of God bless you, have you ever stopped to think why we say this in the first place? There are actually a few accounts claiming to be the real reason. One story says this is a practice implemented by Pope Gregory I, who was Pope way back in 590 AD. Pope Gregory started this because during that time, the plague was rampant over in Europe, and sneezing was one of the signs that you were infected. The God bless you was meant as a quick prayer to protect the person sneezing from impending death. Another account says that God bless you comes from an ancient superstition that a man's soul resided in air, and that sneezing forced so much air out that the soul might accidentally be forced out too. Thus, this quick blessing was to stop this from happening. Frankly, we think whether you believe these accounts or not, it's just a nice thing to say to someone. So we say, keep it up. So now you know the truth about sneezes. While you may feel that momentary lull when you sneeze, the truth is the heart is just compensating for the changes that occur naturally in your body during the expulsion of gunk from your nose. Don't you worry, it's completely natural and good for you too. So sneeze away. Just keep that hand over your mouth, because while it may be your body's way of helping you get over a sickness, your immune system couldn't care less about anyone else in your vicinity. So cover that mouth, Brainiacs. See you next time.